The weather is about to take an insane turn and it's going to happen fast. It all starts on Tuesday where a powerful winter storm will sweep across the northern plains, Midwest, Great Lakes and parts of the Northeast. Blizzard conditions are expected with whiteout visibility, dangerous travel and 8 or more inches of snowfall possible in some areas. But the chaos does not end there. More snow chances will return later in the week. Targeting the Central Plains, Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Northeast, meaning that some areas may get hit by snow multiple times with only a short break in between these storms. But this winter pattern is about to get a lot worse, as an intense and long-lasting Arctic blast will plunge south Thursday, which will bring the coldest air we've seen all season. This isn't just a quick freeze. We're talking about several days of dangerous wind chills and below-zero temperatures impacting tens of millions of people. So in today's forecast, we are going to break down exactly what you need to know about this major weather pattern change that is about to happen. Now I want to set the stage for what is going to be happening over the next 7 days with our weather, and to talk more about that we're going to talk about the jet stream. This is what it looks like right now. We already have a pretty big dip in our jet stream across the Northeast and also across the Great Lakes. That is where below average temperatures reside right now, and then high pressure is pretty strong across the desert Southwest with lots of rain falling across the Pacific Northwest, and we're going to talk more about that here in just a moment. Bye-bye. Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to see a winter storm form across the northern plains, the Great Lakes and the Midwest, with upwards of as much as 12 to 14 inches of snowfall being a possibility, including Wisconsin and even Minnesota and parts of Michigan as well. And then by Wednesday, Thursday into Friday, our jet stream is going to dip even more to the south. And what this is going to help to do is transport a bunch of bitter cold air out of Canada into the northern tier of the United States by as early as Friday. Notice how strong our upper-level winds are going to be as well. Once we start to see these yellow colors, that means we have very, very, very fast winds aloft, and that's going to help to transport tons of Arctic air out of Canada by late October. Thursday and Friday. And then by Friday and Saturday, our jet stream is going to be transporting so much cold air across the northern plains in the Northeast. We are going to have a large area with sub-zero temperatures. We could even have some areas as low as 30 degrees below zero by Saturday morning. That is how frigid it is going to get here as we go into the weekend. And then by the time we go into next week, that cold air is just going to continue to transport itself here across the northern tier of the United States, keeping things extremely cold. And then areas that are further south of our jet stream, this is where our wild card is basically going to be set up. And what that means is that we're not entirely sure if the Arctic air is going to reach all the way down towards the Gulf Coast. But if it does, we could see some really cold air. So we're going to talk more about those scenarios in just a moment. Now, the first thing that we need to talk about is how cold it is going to get across the United States, as we are expecting a pretty significant Arctic blast to impact many of you across the country. So this is what it looks like right now. We actually have below average temperatures all across the Northeast. This is from a pretty strong cold front that rolled through the Northeast over the last couple of days. And then also, we even have some snow that is falling across the Atlantic because of this. And we'll talk more about that here in a moment. And then above average temperatures all across the Great Plains and all along the West Coast, and that is going to continue for the next couple of days because by Wednesday, we're actually going to have a low pressure system come out of Canada. That is our Alberta Clipper that's going to dump a bunch of snow across the northern plains, Midwest, Great Lakes and Northeast. But the other thing it'll bring is a much more significant shot of cold air on Wednesday before that happens, though we're actually going to have pretty warm temperatures make their way up into Illinois, Iowa and also Missouri. For this time of the year, many areas will reach the 30s, 40s and even low 50s for high temperatures, which will melt some of the snow that's already on the ground by Thursday and Friday. That shot of cold air will move across the Midwest, the Ohio Valley and the East Coast, but this shot of cold air is not going to be significant. We're going to drop temperatures by maybe 10 degrees, 15 degrees. It's nothing really that crazy. What's going to be crazy is what it will be right back. Over 100 million people east of the Rockies, perhaps even more than that. The other scenario, which is more likely, is that our jet stream stays more zonal, kind of like what I showed you a few minutes ago. And this is basically a scenario where our cold air would kind of sit more up into the northern tier of the country and wouldn't dive down towards the Gulf Coast nearly as much. Now, we will likely still see a cold front make its way down there. It just won't be nearly as strong. So this is what it looks like as we go into Friday night and Saturday morning. The most intense Arctic air is likely going to be sitting across the Midwest. And then from here, Saturday into Sunday, that cold air is going to literally be draping all of the northern tier of the country. This will be impacting areas like New York City, New England, back into the northern plains and Midwest with temperatures as much as 30 to 40 degrees below average. And then by Sunday and Monday, that cold air starts to retreat back off to the north. And then eventually by next week, we start to see most of that cold air just sitting across the Northeast. So to summarize, Arctic air is expected across the northern plains in the northeast this weekend. It's a bit more uncertain, though, here back over in the southern plains and also across the southeast. So stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and we'll keep you posted with the latest with any new details that come out about this. And in just a moment, we're going to talk about exactly how cold it is going to get and all the snow that we're going to be seeing over the next 7 days. What makes this weather pattern so concerning is how cold it is going to get across the United States. And it's going to be the most concerning for those in the Midwest, as frostbite is going to become a major concern by Friday and Saturday. These are the temperatures that you guys can be waking up on Friday morning to across the northern plains. Many areas as much as 15 to 20 degrees. 20 degrees below zero. So significant cold on Friday. And then by Saturday morning, we could be talking about a widespread area with temperatures as low as 30 degrees below zero. This is why this is such a concerning weather pattern that is developing right now. And then eventually as we go into late Saturday and Sunday, that cold air continues to sit across the northern plains, the Midwest and the Great Lakes. And then eventually by next week, it starts to warm up a little bit. But this cold could be lingering for quite some time. We could continue to see sub-zero temperatures across the Midwest almost every morning for around 5 to 7 days. This is a very concerning trend that is developing. Now, we need to talk more about the snow that is coming to the United States, as we have 3 different winter storms that are possible this week. And we are already beginning with one that is actually happening today. Back over on the East Coast, we have winter storm warnings that are in effect across much of southern Virginia near Richmond. And then also winter weather advisories in effect from Kentucky back into North Carolina and even Virginia Beach. And then we also have winter storm watches in effect back over in the northern plains. And these will be expanding throughout the daytime today, as we are expecting a pretty significant winter storm to make its way across the northern plains, the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes on Tuesday and even into Wednesday. Wouldn't even be surprised if we got some blizzard warnings. Now let's talk more about these 2 different winter storms that will be impacting the United States over the next couple of days, and then we'll go wide view and show you everything that's happening in the United States over the next 10 days. So I want to begin with what is happening right now in terms of snowfall, and we have a lot of snow already falling this morning across the mid-Atlantic. Bunch of snow falling in Virginia right now, North Carolina, even West Virginia. Snowfall rates are right around 1 to 2 inches per hour, so nothing too crazy, but definitely going to stack up here pretty quickly, as this snow will stick around through about lunchtime or so. And then into the afternoon, light to moderate snow will continue across eastern Virginia and northeastern North Carolina. But overall, if you're back over to the west of Richmond, most of the snow is going to be winding down. A few snow showers will still be possible back over in eastern Kentucky by this afternoon. And then by this evening, a little bit of light snow will continue. Again, just light snow showers, pretty scattered at that point. And then after about 10 o'clock, we are done with snow across most of the mid-Atlantic. Tonight into tomorrow morning, a small little band of snow will be moving across Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. This is not a winter storm. This is just going to be around an inch of snow, if that, across many of these areas. But what really will be significant is what happens on Tuesday, as we are expecting a very significant winter storm to form back over in the northern plains. This will begin as freezing rain and snow across parts of North Dakota and also northwestern Minnesota Tuesday morning, but it's going to rapidly intensify as it tracks across Minnesota and Wisconsin during the afternoon hours. It's not just going to intensify with precipitation, but the winds are also going to intensify, which means what's going to happen is that we will likely see blizzard conditions with snow drifting Tuesday afternoon and evening across northern Minnesota and northern Wisconsin. All those dark blues are indicating very heavy snowfall as well. Wind rule out snowfall rates up to 2.5 inches per hour out of this disturbance. By around sunset, that snow continues to hammer areas in northern Wisconsin near Wausau. Also, Green Bay will start to see snowfall by around 6 or 7 o'clock. Northern Minnesota will continue to see some light snowfall. And then as we go closer to the overnight hours, that snow is going to move out of most of Minnesota. We'll continue to have some moderate snowfall in Wisconsin and the upper peninsula of Michigan. But by this point, the heaviest snow will be across the thumb of Michigan and also northern Michigan. And then as we go into the overnight hours into early Wednesday, that snow is going to be blanketing the northeast. Most areas inland in New England will pick up snow, but if you're along the coastal regions, I'm mostly expecting rain for those areas. And then by Wednesday night into early Thursday morning, we'll be watching for some significant lake effect snow potential, especially back over here near Watertown, New York. If you're further down to the south near Lake Erie, I don't think we're going to see that much snowfall, but there could be a few inches of lake effect snow out of this event. And then by Thursday, another winter storm could form across the northern plains, and that one could track even further south, and we'll talk more about that here in a moment. Now, in terms of total snowfall out of these first 2 winter storms, I'm actually expecting a decent amount of snowfall today across Virginia and even the Appalachian Mountains. I'd expect a widespread 1 to 5 inches of snow. I do fully expect, though, that we'll have a few locations in southern Virginia that pick up as much as 6 to 7 inches of snowfall. So decent amount of snowfall today across the mid-Atlantic. Again, pretty surprising stuff. We don't usually see snow that often here in December along the East Coast, at least in the mid-Atlantic. So this is definitely a little bit of a change. And then once we go into late Tuesday and Wednesday, we are talking about the threat of significant snowfall. This is going to be a very narrow and thin corridor where all that snow is going to be happening, but it'll be anywhere from North Dakota back into northern Michigan, where we are expecting a widespread 6 to 10 inches of snowfall. But I do think there will likely be a few areas, especially near the Duluth and also northern Wisconsin areas that pick up as much as 12 to 14 inches of snowfall. If you're back over in Minneapolis, if you're in Des Moines, if you're in Chicago, if you're in Milwaukee, we might not see really much of any snow out of this. It would be more than anything, maybe just an inch or two if you were to even see snow. It's going to be a very quick hitting winter storm, but nonetheless, we are talking about some pretty significant snow accumulation where that snow does hit. Now let's go wide view and talk more about what is happening across the entire country. Today, we're actually going to be talking about some pretty significant snow accumulation. Actually going to see some very significant rain and snow across the Pacific Northwest. Flooding is going to become a big concern back over western Oregon and Washington. We could see as much as 5 to 7 inches of rain in some areas. So big concern there tonight into tomorrow. We're going to be expecting that big winter storm to form across the northern plains. It'll be the most significant Tuesday night across Minnesota, Wisconsin, even parts of North Dakota where blizzard conditions are possible. On Wednesday, this moves into the north. It'll be a weakening storm system by this point, but widespread 2 to 4 inches of snow is on the table. And then on Thursday, some lake effect snow will continue back over in western New York. By Friday, that is when another winter storm is possible, but I think this is going to be more of a Rocky Mountain event. It's going to be right underneath that very strong high-pressure system that's going to bring all that Arctic air out of Canada. And what I think is going to happen on late Thursday and then into early Friday is that we'll have some heavy snow across the Rockies, mainly north of Denver. And then as we go into Friday morning and afternoon, it starts to weaken as it moves towards the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. There is always the possibility that it could be a bit more organized in this, but at least for right now, it looks like snow showers on Friday from Kansas back into the northeast and including areas like Ohio and Kentucky. Saturday and Sunday, that high-pressure system is going to be built all across the Midwest and the northeast. This is probably going to limit a lot of our winter storm potential, especially if our jet stream remains pretty zonal here across the northern tier of the United States. And then by next week, things get a little bit more uncertain. But as of right now, I'm not tracking any major winter storms beyond the one that we're seeing on Tuesday and Wednesday. Wednesday across the northern tier of the country. And as always, thank you all so much for watching today's forecast. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. Make sure to check them out with the top link in the description below. I really appreciate the amazing sponsors that we have on this channel. It would not be possible to do what we do on this channel without all of them. So make sure to check them out, support them as well. Also, I just want to mention that yes, I am back from my trip. We'll be back with basically daily videos every single day. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, record-breaking cold snow, all sorts of stuff, so make sure to subscribe to the channel and we'll see you all again in the next video.